Hello students, welcome in my YouTube studio. In today's presentation, we will start from the unit number 3, which is urinary system. Urinary system is nothing but the filtering machine of our body. It is the ultimate RO system. It is the ultimate reverse osmosis system, which is naturally produced by the nature in our body, which is never going to be collapsed, never going to be damaged. Only it's on us when we are playing with that organ, when we are not working, when we are not having a proper input in that organ, then and then it will be damaged. Otherwise it is working very smoothly through all over the life. We are having two kidneys, right and left kidneys. Even we can live on one kidney also. One kidney also take a 80% load of total filtration of our blood. Blood can be filtered into our urinary system and urine is going to be produced. Almost 180 liter of the blood can be filtered in a day, daily. And it is the unit, it is the organ where most of the drugs or most of the food material is going to be excreted in the form of urine. Maximum drugs are excreted in urine. Almost 90 to 95% drugs are excreted in urine. Now if you will see kidney are nothing but they are having bean-like shape. There are two kidneys, and the disease of kidney, for example, we are having kidney stone. Nowadays kidney stone is very common, and also another disease like hypertension. There are several diseases which are in combination with the another organ. For example, heart is always having effect on kidney, and kidney is having always effect on heart. Both are combinedly working. So if kidney is not functioning properly, it will definitely produce impact on heart. Hypertension can be produced, or myocardial infarction can be invade due to this. Now urology is the branch of medicine that deals with the urinary system. Nephrology is the branch of the medical science which deals with the study of disease and structure and functions of kidney, both the kidneys. And in urology or in the urinary system, we are studying the male reproductive system and urinary system of females. In case of female, there is only urethra, but in case of male, urethra is having both the functions. One is of excretion of urine, and also the expulsion and ejaculation of sperms, which occurs in during sexual intercourse in reproductive system also. Now here the various processes like micturition occur. What is micturition? It is a process of urination. When the waste materials are thrown outside, that process is called as micturition. It is the voluntary control when we are having feeling of urination, when the bladder is filled. Actually urinary bladder is having capacity of 1 to 2 liter, but when it exceeds, it will do the signal to our brain that we are having micturiation. At that time we are going for urination. Now there are various functions of kidneys that we will come across one by one. In that, first function is regulation of blood ionic composition. As we know, in blood various ions are there. For example, sodium, calcium, potassium, magnesium, chloride, glucose, etc., etc. So there is a role of kidney to maintain, to regulate their proportion, to regulate their ratio, which one need to be exceed and which one need to be decrease. So that proportion is going to be maintained by kidney. Suppose if potassium is less, that condition is called as hypokalemia. If this nitrogen is less, it is that condition is called as hyponatremia. So like that various conditions are. If calcium is more, it is called hypercalcemia. So various conditions can be incline and decline. That's why each and every electrolyte should be in normal proportion, normal condition, normal rate, so that can be maintained by our kidney. So each and every electrolyte is important for us, so it is maintained by our kidney. Regulation of blood pH. So as we know, blood is having the basic pH, but sometimes it need to be maintained acidic, but it meant to be maintained basic also. So basicity and acidity can be controlled by the kidneys. That it do it by with the help of the ions. As we know, the carbonic acid, with the help of that carbonic anhydrous, it can be dissociated into two ions, H plus and HCO3 minus. H plus maintain the acidity in the blood. So acidity, if you want to increase, H plus ion will be increased, and the alkalinity or the basicity can be maintained by the bicarbonate ions, HCO3 minus ions. If it is exceed, it will increase the basicity. That depends on the requirement. If our body require more basicity, at that time there will be the more release of HCO3 minus ions, means bicarbonate ions will maintain the alkalinity of our blood. So in this fashion they are maintaining our blood pH whenever we require, according to that. In any organ, in case of kidneys, in case of our liver, in case of our GID, wherever, whatever, and in case of respiration also, in case of lungs also, the basicity and the alkalinity can be maintained by our kidneys. Next is regulation of blood volume. This blood volume plays a great role in our body, because normally 6 to 7 liter of blood volume is there in a normal human being. 6 to 7 liters. It somewhat decrease in case of females. It can be maintained by our kidney. Why? Suppose if filtration rate is going to be increase, it will decrease the blood volume. If filtration rate will be decrease, it will increase the blood volume. So that's why, as we know, the sodium ions are there, and sodium ions are always taking a molecules of water along with that. If we will release more sodium ions in urine, more urine formation will be there. That process is called as diuresis. It is a process of increase the flow of urine. That process is called as diuresis. So in case of diuresis, more sodium ions will release into the urine. Sodium ions go into the urine along with the water molecules, means more and more blood is going to be filtered, and it will be released into the urine, means less blood will remain into our body, and due to which volume can be controlled. So that depends on the conditions, that depends on the receptors, that depends on the signals coming from the brain. If our body require more volume in that condition, means in case of the season also, in case of the humidity, in case of the dry season, in case of the more summer season, if more dehydration is going to be occur, in that condition kidney will decrease the rate of filtration, because already through sweat our water is going to be lost. So why should we lose by increasing filtration also? So in that condition kidney will decrease the rate of filtration. But in case of winter season, you might be aware about that. In winter season we are having more urination, more micturition. We are taking less water and we are releasing more urine through our urethra. It is fact. So that's why, that depends on the climate, temperature, condition, humidity, all these things are there. So that water is going to be maintained. After that, regulation of blood pressure. So as it is related with the blood volume, if blood volume is going to be increase, if it is increased, in that case ultimately it will affect on our heart. How? If blood volume will increase, definitely it will increase the peripheral resistance. What is peripheral resistance? The resistance produced by the blood on the walls of the artery. It will produce the peripheral resistance. It will produce the blood pressure, and due to which pressure can be increased. If pressure can be increased, it will produce the pressure on the heart, and heart may come in crisis. It will develop into the myocardial infarction also. It will develop into the angina pectoris also. So that depends. So if blood volume will increase, blood pressure will increase. How we can decrease the blood volume? By taking the diuresis, by diuretics, like furosemide is the drug. If you are taking that drug, definitely it will release the blood volume, decrease blood volume. If blood volume can be decreased, it will decrease the total peripheral resistance. If total peripheral resistance is going to be decreased, definitely it will decrease the blood pressure. In this fashion, they are directly connected with each other, blood pressure and blood volume. Next is maintenance of blood. Also, this blood pressure can be maintained by the kidney by release of the one hormone. It is called as renin. Renin can be released by the kidney by juxtaglomerulus apparatus, by the macula densa cell, and also kidney is releasing the aldosterone from the principal cells. So there is renin angiotensin aldosterone pathway, and due to that also it will increase the blood pressure. Renin will increase the blood pressure. So in this fashion it will control the blood pressure. Next is maintenance of blood osmolarity. What is our normal blood osmolarity? Actually, what is osmolarity? Osmoles means solutes, means salts, means whatever the amount of solutes are dissolved in blood. Blood is transparent plasma water. In that some solutes are dissolved. So the quantity of solute is going to be regulated by kidney. For example, if you are making a syrup, if you are making a sharbat, in that what we are adding? We are adding sugar, we are adding salt, and we are adding the lemon. So that all these three elements are solute, and their proportion decides the taste of that sharbat. So like that syrup, here also in blood we are having various elements, various electrolytes are there, various blood proteins are there, various gases are there, that urea, after that ammonia, like that various phosphates, bicarbonates, various solutes, electrolytes are there, and their proportion is decide the osmolarity. What is our normal osmolarity? It is 300 milliosmol per liter. That is the exact quantity of osmoles, milliosmoles required in our blood. If it increases, problem arises. If it decreases, still problem arises. So kidney is try to maintain that number. It is 300 milliosmol per liter. So that proportion of solute is going to be maintained in our blood. So that is the main work of our kidney. It is having the filtration unit, filtration membranes are there, due to which it is maintaining only that much amount of solutes should be maintained, that much amount of RBC, that much amount of RBC, WBC, platelets, and epithelial cells, and all these things are going to be maintained in our blood. Next is osmolarity. Also you should know, in case of RO, in reverse osmosis, what they are doing, same thing our kidney is doing. Osmosis, in reverse osmosis, RO, Kent or that AquaGuard we are having at our domestic level. So the same function our kidney is doing without any charge. If our kidney fails to do that, what we are doing? We are doing the dialysis. That artificial osmosis process is called as dialysis. We are doing the hemodialysis by the instrument. Artificially we are doing the filtration of our blood. If our kidney fails to do that, in the kidney failure or if our kidney is damaged, or our kidney is not working properly due to the over intake of alcohol or any cancerous substance, any anti-cancer drug or any toxic substances which have done the renal failure to our kidney. So in that condition only we have to do that, we have to do the artificial dialysis. Now next is production of hormones. It is also very important. Kidney is having ability to release the various important hormones. One is calcitriols. What is that calcitriols? It is an activated form of vitamin D, and it can be released and stored by our kidney. That is very important. So whenever vitamin D is required, a kidney will release that calcitriol. And also the next important hormone which can be released by this kidney, and it is called as erythropoietin. erythropoietin, erythropoietin. This is the hormone which is responsible for hemopoiesis. It is responsible for RBC production. So that's why for RBC production rate can be controlled by our kidneys. Whenever if there is decreased level of RBC count in our body, it will signalize, it give signals to our kidney to release more erythropoietin. If erythropoietin will release more, it will increase the production rate of the RBC WBC. And in this fashion it will control our hemoglobin and our RBC count. So that is also another important functions of the kidney hormones. Next is regulation of blood glucose level. Like liver is also having the capability to control the glucose sugar level. So like that our kidney also having maintaining our glucose level. What it is doing? It is also doing the process of gluconeogenesis. Whenever our body requires the glucose, it will release that glucose into the blood in systemic circulation. By the process of gluconeogenesis, it will produce the glucose from the lactates, pyruvates and other elements which are available to our kidney, and through that they will produce the glucose. In this fashion it will occupy, or it will give the supplement to the our blood to have that glucose. Now next, by this next function is excretion of waste and foreign substances. So this kidney is having a great role of clearing all the waste materials. It is the best sanitizer in our body. It is sanitizing each and everything. Not only it is throwing the waste material, but also whatever drug we are taking, lots of antibiotics, anti-tubercular drugs, anti-cancer drugs. These drugs are very difficult to excrete, very difficult to digest. Though they are digest, very difficult to excrete. So they can be excrete only with the help of kidneys. And kidney is doing the excretion. By doing excretion, they are decreasing their toxicity. If any toxic substance remain into your body, it will show its effects. But what our kidney is doing? Kidney is immediately excreting that from your body. If toxic substance will exit from our body, definitely it won't show any toxic effect on us. So this doing the excretion of various waste materials. Actually there are two types of elements which can be produced. One is the normal elements and another is abnormal elements. So in urine some normal are there, that we can understand, but some abnormal elements are there, they can be excreted, but they should not come in our urine. Like blood, if it is coming in urine, it is abnormal elements. Suppose if the amino acid is coming in our urine, it is abnormal. And normal elements are like creatine, creatinine, urea, uric acid, amines. These are the normal constituents. So they are regularly, they comes into our urine. So in this fashion, in urine, lots of normal abnormal constituents, but also abnormal like epithelial cells are also coming in our urine. So in this fashion, there are the various functions of kidney that one should know. Kidney is having a great role in our body. That's why we should conserve our kidneys. We are having only 2 kidneys, and if both are working well, we should preserve them. Now basic gross anatomy of kidneys, there are 2 kidneys. Kidneys is, as we know, it is bean shaped. The right kidney is somewhat downward and the left kidney is somewhat upward. They are tilted in position. Kidney is having weight near about 135 to 150 gram. That much amount it is having, that much weight it is having. If it is see its size, it is 10 to 12 centimeter in length long, and its width is 5 to 7 centimeter in width. If in thickness, it is almost 3 centimeter in thickness. So that much size is there, and kidney is receiving both the blood. It is pure blood as well as impure blood. It is taking pure blood and it is filtering that blood, and it is pouring that blood, releasing that blood into the through the efferent artery into the impure blood, into the vena cava, inferior vena cava, and through where they are going toward the heart. So here 2 ureters are there. Now in the anatomy of urinary system, there are 2 kidney, a pair of kidneys there, 2 ureters are there. These ureters, from where the kidney is releasing their excreta or excrete material. After urinary bladder is there. This is the urinary bladder. This urinary bladder is having the specialized types of transitional muscles, transitional epithelial cells, which are ready to expand by size of 500 ml also, and it can expand 1.5 liter of urine also. It can expand in that size to have that volume of urine can be occupied, can be stored into that urethra, in that urinary bladder. So bladder is there, one bladder, and urethra, one urethra is there. In case of female, only urethra is there. In case of male, urethra is having the penis, and through penis, penile urethra, the urine as well as the sperms can come out. Now external anatomy of kidneys. Within the muscular wall of the back, between thoracic T12 to lumbar 3. So this is the exact position of kidney. It will start from the thoracic 12 vertebra and it will ends into the lumbar 3 vertebra. This is the position through the vertebral column. Renal hilus is there, and it is there having the connective tissue layer, which is having renal capsules, adipose tissue, and renal fascia. Adipose tissue is to absorb the shock. So whatever shock is there, so it should not affect to the kidney. That's why that adipose tissue is supplied with that connective tissue. Now kidney is having 2 parts. The external outer part is called as cortex, and the internal part is called as medulla. Now this is the cortex. This cortex part is the superficial part of the kidney, so which occurs at the lateral position of our kidney. Now this cortex, if you will see the renal cortex, they are nothing but the reddish brown in color, and they are also called as the renal cortex. And the internal part is the renal medulla. Renal medulla is having 3 parts: renal pyramid, renal papillae, and renal columns. Now renal pyramids. The renal medulla consists of the several cone-shaped renal pyramids. The base of each pyramid faces the renal cortex, and its apex is called as renal papilla. The point toward the renal hilum. This is the renal hilum. It is the concave part. This is called as renal hilum. They are having point toward the renal hilum. Here you can see they are point toward the renal hilum or renal pelvis here. Now those proportions of the renal cortex that extend between the renal pyramids are called as renal columns. Renal columns are also here in between the renal pyramids. Here you can see renal pelvis with major calyx and with minor calyx. That also we in next slide. Now here in this figure also you can distinctly see what is the position of this is the renal cortex. After that this is the pyramidal structures, renal papilla, this is the major calyx, this is the minor calyx, this is the renal artery, renal vein. Extension of cortex projects toward the sinus, dividing the medulla into 6 to 7 renal pyramids. Here these 6 to 7 renal pyramids are available here. Each pyramid is conical with a blunt point called as papilla facing the sinus. So they are having the blunt point, it is called as papilla. Here it is papilla. After papilla it will go into these minor calyx. The papilla is nested into a cup called as minor calyx, which collects its urine. So from here from the renal papilla it will go into the minor calyx, from minor calyx it will go into the major calyx. So the 2 or 3 minor calyxes merge to form a major calyx. So they will form, this one is called major calyx, this one is called major calyx, major calyx. So 3 to 4 major calyxes are there. So the major calyxes merge to form a renal pelvis. So this is the renal pelvis. So it will form the renal pelvis, and from this renal pelvis that urine will go toward the ureter. So in this fashion the urine is going to be formed and it will transported into the ureter. The journey of that urine formation and urine propulsion we must know. Now blood supply of the kidney, it is also very interesting how the blood supply occurs. Actually this renal artery is giving the blood to the kidney and it can be filtered here, and after that through this renal vein it can be taken back into the renal vein and it will go into the renal vena cava, inferior vena cava, and through that it will go into the heart. Now here we will see the journey. First through aorta, from aorta to the renal artery, after that segmental artery, from segmental artery to the interlobar artery, from interlobar artery to the arcuate artery, after that cortical radiate artery, after that afferent arteriole, next to the afferent arteriole is glomerulus. Here is the Bowman capsule, in glomerulus it will go. Now in glomerulus the filtration occurs. So filtration starts, continue in filtration. After that it will go into the efferent arteriole, and from here it will go for the peritubular capillaries where the vasa recta is there, means they are supplied with the red blood cells, also the red means the blood with oxygenated blood also, and improved blood also, means deoxygenated blood also. So both the types of blood vessels are supplied in vasa recta. They are peritubular arteries. What is peritubular? Peritubular means the PCT, DCT means tubules are there, and along with the tubules, if the arteries are and the blood vessels are running, they are called as peritubular arteries and veins. Means they are going along with that tubule. It may be PCT or DCT or Loper Fenley. The tubule is there at a tubular area. They are coiled with this artery and veins. After that, here the filtration has been occur. After that, it will go into the cortical radiate vein, from this arcuate vein. From arcuate vein, go into the interlobular vein. From interlobular to the renal vein, and finally into the inferior vena cava. And after this, it will go toward the heart, from heart to the lungs. So in this fashion the journey of blood is there, how blood supply is there toward the kidney. This sequence you should able to recall. It can be asked in the examination as well. Now nephron. Almost 1 billion to 1.2 million nephrons are available in one kidney. Nephron is structural and functional unit of kidney. Nephron is having two parts, renal corpuscle and renal tubules. Now you know what is renal corpuscle? It is also called as Malpighian body. It is also called as glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. Glomerulus is the internal part which is having the blood, which is having the supply of afferent and efferent arterioles. And Bowman's capsule, it is nothing but the cap like proportion, it's over that glomerulus. And tubules are having three parts, proximal convoluted tubules. After that it is also called as PCT. Next is loop of Henle, which is hairpin like structure. Next is distal convoluted tubules. So as we know, these nephrons are the functional and structural units of our kidney. These glomerulus, the two components of renal corpuscle in which the glomerulus is one. The glomerulus is the one which is having glomerulus capsule, the double walled epithelial cup that surrounds the glomerular capillaries. The blood plasma is filtered in the glomerular capsules, and then filtered fluid passes into the renal tubule, which has three main sections. Actually 70 to 80%, or you can say 85% blood is going to be filtered into the glomerulus, and remaining blood can be reabsorbed from the peritubular arteries. And in the renal tubule the blood is there, and from where the absorption process continues, absorption and secretion is continuous into that tubulus. Here the process of filtration has been occur, and here the tubular absorption and tubular secretion continues till the collecting duct. This is the collecting duct, this is the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, this is the loop of Henle, hairpin shaped, and this is the DCT, distal convoluted tubules. Convoluted means convolutions, means coiled. They are coiled in structures. Here also you can see they are having coiled in structures. So the PCT, they are the part of tubules attached to the glomerulus capsule, and the distal denotes the part of further way, and the last part is collecting duct. The collecting duct then unite, and they will converge into the hundreds large papillary ducts, and through these papillary ducts they will go into the minor calyx and major calyx that we have already discussed. Now loop of Henle, if you will see loop of Henle, it is having hairpin like shape. They are having two limbs. This is the descending limb and this is the ascending limb of loop of Henle. There are having two types of nephrons, cortical nephron and the juxtamedullary nephron. Now in case of the cortical nephron, the loop of Henle is not too much large, it is small in size. But in case of the juxtamedullary nephron, it is large in size, it is elongated, and the specialty of that also we will see in the another slide. Now renal corpuscle. This renal corpuscle is also called as glomerulus. In this glomerulus, it is a visceral layer of consists of modified simple squamous epithelium cells. They are called as podocytes. Here you can see they are the podocytes. The many foot-like projections of these cells wrap around the single layer of endothelial cells of glomerulus capillaries and form the inner wall of capsules. The fluid filtered from the glomerulus capillaries enter the capsular space, the space between the two layers of glomerular capsules, which the lumen of urinary tube. The glomerulus is the first punched into the lymph balloon. Unit the fist is covered by two layers of balloons. Actually, this is the one balloon, this is the another balloon, and in between the filtration, you can see filtration has been completed. So RBC can be filtered. Only the some electrolytes and some waste materials is going to be secreted into the lumen. This is the lumen, this is the part, this is, it will become urine after this, and from here this is the afferent arteriole. From afferent arteriole, whatever the blood supply coming from the heart, it will come here and it will filtered, and from here, from the efferent, it will go away from the glomerulus. From here the filter blood will go toward the heart. So in this fashion, and this is the juxtaglomerulus apparatus. What is juxta? It is near the glomerulus. This is the glomerulus and it is near the glomerulus. That's why it is called as juxtaglomerulus apparatus. And here the specialized cells are available. They are called as macula densa cells. This macula densa cell, along with this glomerulus, they are producing the juxtaglomerulus apparatus, and it is able to produce renin. That is the hormone which is responsible for increase the blood pressure. Here renin can be released from this apparatus. Here the foot like projections, they are called as podocytes, and they are responsible for filtration. They are work as a filtration slit, so filtration can be occurred through this. So the various elements, electrolytes, RBC, WBC can be filtered through this. Only the worn out cells can be removed from our body, and they will release into the urine. Now here filtration membrane, you can see this is the filtration membrane. This is the actually how it looks. So here the whole filtration process occurs. So they are having the cytoplasmic extensions of podocytes. The podocytes are nothing but the projections, and they are responsible for the filtration. Here you can see the parietal layer of the glomerulus capsules are there, and here the podocyte cells, they are responsible for filtration. Here the fenestrations are there. What is fenestration? They are the window like projections. It is just like window, they are open close. They are called as fenestration. They are the pores through which some substance will pass, some won't pass. Now here the podocytes, how it looks. This is the structure of podocytes. This is the basement membrane. This is the podocytes. They are the fenestrations. Fenestration means it is a window. They are the pores, fenestrations, endothelium of glomerulus. So through which some substance can pass, some solids won't pass. Now this is the filtration membrane that you should know. This is the exact layer of our glomerulus through which the membrane, some solids will pass, some elements, some cell will pass, and some can't. This is the filtration slit. This is the area where it will turns into the urine, and this is the plasma through which they can enter here, and it will filter and will go into the blood, into the system circulation. This is the fenestration. From here some elements will pass here. So here the filtration membrane, it is a capillary endothelium. This is the basement membrane, this one. This is the foot process of podocytes of glomerular capsule, this one. So in this fashion they will do this filtration very perfectly in our body without any mistake. This is the filtration slit, this is the diaphragm, and they are the foot process of podocytes. These podocytes are responsible for filtration. They are gaining the various elements, and they are filtering, and they are transferring the vital elements towards the blood into the through the fenestrations. Now renal tubules. Now in the renal tubules, proximal convoluted tubule and loop of Henle and distal convoluted tubule. Now in the proximal convoluted tubule, here you can see this is the part here, proximal convoluted tubule, and these are the peritubular capillaries. See these red colored. Why they are called peritubular? Because they are go along with these tubules. They have wrapped these tubules. They are supplying the blood to the tubules for the functions of absorption, reabsorption, and secretion. Because for each and every function we require blood, we require oxygen, we require glucose, we require electrolytes, and it can be supplied by the blood. And here there is a role of these peritubular capillaries. So this is the glomerulus, and after that we are having, this is the PCT, after that this is the loop of Henle, and this is the DCT. In this patient there are three parts. Now here again you can see this is another figure. Now here I have to point out this is the juxtaglomerulus cells. They are having the macula densa cell. They are able to produce the renin. Renin can be produced from here, and renin angiotensin aldosterol pathway will be there. And here at this, the last part of the DCT and the starting part of the collecting duct, there is a principal cells are available. These principal cells are able to release the aldosterone from here. So here you can see this is the DCT. This is the loop of Henle. And mind it well, this loop of Henle is also having two limbs. One is descending, another is ascending limb. Which is going upward, it is called ascending. Which is going downward, it is called descending loop of Henle. There are having various types of cells. For example, this proximal means PCT is having this highly unfolded plasma membrane. They are having mitochondria, macrovilli, whereas glomerulus are having podocytes. This DCT is having this specialized epithelial cells. The loop of Henle is having thin segmented cells. In this loop of Henle, the maximum transportation of these electrolytes occurs, like sodium, potassium, chloride, and glucose. They are transported very fastly here. And this collecting duct, they are having intercalated cells and principal cells. Two cells are there. They are releasing the aldosterone into this lumen. Now renal tubules. As we know, renal tubules, they are having various internal structure of this renal tubule, which is a PCT. In that, glomerulus capsular space is here. This is the squamous epithelial parietal layers of glomerulus capsules of glomerulus. Glomerulus is having this type of cells. After DCT tubules, how it looks, this is the internal structure of that. And PCT, they are fuzzy lumens due to the long microvilli. Actually, in this lumen of these tubules also, they are having villi and macrovilli. Why? For the absorption, and reabsorption. Because the villi are increasing the surface area for absorption of the vital elements through these tubules. So in this fashion, they are providing the area. Now the types of nephron. There are two types of nephrons. One is cortical nephron, which is at the area of cortex. This is the whole area at the cortex, only few parts into the medulla. And 80 to 85% nephrons are cortical nephrons, and only 15 to 20% nephrons are called as juxtamedullary nephrons, because they are deep in medulla. Their loop of Henle part is very deep, very long, elongated, and the basic difference between juxtamedullary and the cortical nephron is that the elongation of this loop of Henle is very long in case of juxtamedullary nephron. And also another difference is here, in case of juxtamedullary nephrons, the part of the loop of Henle, actually the ascending lip of Henle is having two parts. One is thick ascending lip and thin ascending limb. There are two parts, thick ascending and thin ascending limb. And this area of lip of Henle of the juxtamedullary nephron, they are responsible for production of more concentrated urine. More concentrated urine are produced by this juxtamedullary nephron, especially in case of the summer days. They are in 15 to 20% in numbers. They are not too much, but here they are present in almost 80% to 85% in numbers. Now in this fashion, today we have discussed the first lecture on this urinary system. So thanks a lot for hearing me. Bye.